Okay, thank you, everybody. This is going to be an English session, and my name is Dandan Pan, and many of you may know about myself and Haddee. So this is Okay, this is my company, the founder, and you can Google us, find great reviews. Thank you all. And my quick introduction, we're not going to go over too much about myself. And then this is our service, college counseling, and we have this whole circle is about our college counseling. Okay, you can see unlimited college applications. Okay, not going to go through the details. And then this is in addition to college counseling. You will see the SAT, essay, extra, all these preparations, research with professors, and the community service, internship, right? Okay, so you can look at us here, find us Google Haddee Education, you will see. We're in San Diego, actually, with our CPA here and attorney, and they will mainly share about tax saving, about trust planning, and we have some in-person parents joining us. Thank you. And this is our website, one of them. It's a more customized AI website, chat with founders, etc. This is our website on the PC, and then on mobile, it's all the same. Actually, it's information all linked. It's just different rendering. You see different classes, etc. Okay, so I'm gonna go and stop right here. I'm going to Mandy, lady first, our CPA. So first, I want to let you guys know that I have been working with Mandy for 7, 8, 10 years. I stopped counting. Many years. Yeah, have a seat. Yeah. So Mandy has been handling my personal tax return and also our company. I have different companies. Okay. Haddee is one of them, tax returns for many years. So thank you, Mandy, and she knows a lot, much more than I do. I will not survive without her. And so I'm very grateful. And then I will, okay, stop sharing here. Okay, this is the presentation coming in for Mandy. I'm just gonna set up for Mandy. Let me see. This is the right one, right? Yeah, okay, so let me see. Let me go present, yeah. So, and then also we have my Berkeley, UC Berkeley connection. Matt is my attorney for trust planning. And Matt also has a degree from Berkeley Law School. And your partner too, right? Okay, so we are all Cal community. Alumni, parents, we have Cal parents here. I think online there will be some Cal parents or alumni, so that's great. So I've been working with Matt, and Matt is also providing me personally great service of trust planning and working with Mandy, both of them helping me of tax strategy, etc. So I deeply grateful for all the help, and I can run a company or the whole family just by myself. So I have a lot of support. So I'm very lucky. And Matt actually is, where do you live? Palm Springs? Yeah, so Matt lives in Palm Springs, and he came here to join us in person. So at least we have a few in person. Yesterday, we have very limited numbers, so that's good. And Mandy is a local CPA in San Diego. But since the law for tax and for trust planning all based on the state, so Mandy can provide CPA services, and so is Matt for the attorney legal service, all entire state of California. So if you're in Berkeley or San Francisco, they can support you as well. Today, actually, is my first time meeting Matt, and Matt been helping me online, and no problem at all. So it's very effective. Yeah. So I just want to disclose, I have no financial relationship with CPA, with legal. Everything's independent. So just like yesterday, we introduced Dr. Ambar, has nothing to do with me financially. But I have experience working with them. That's why I brought them over, because I benefit from their services, and I hope you can all benefit from their services as well. The reason why we are an educational company, why we brought over CPA and attorney, because we are servicing families, and the big chunk of it is it's tuition, okay? And that's why we have Mandy, because if you want to apply for financial aid, Mandy provided us a nice Zoom about a year and a year half ago, is which family should plan for financial aid and how early you should start, right? And also because we're servicing families, even though Haddee education, we only help with college counseling, and really mainly for college kid, they're going to college, going to graduate school or private high school. But we work with parents a lot. Then along the way, they will always have questions. There's financial needs. Even I have local realtor. I help, refer, because it's people, immigrants coming to San Diego or coming to California. It's all integrated. But our service is only on the education side, but we do help parents trying to reduce anxiety. So sometimes, we often give free events to provide holistic support to the families, mainly immigrants families, right? So yeah, so maybe in between I can talk about, we do have a nonprofit that helping the immigrants families. So I will save that to later. So now here you go. Yeah, so Mandy, go, you can sit here and you see. Yeah, thank you, Mandy. Thank you. Go, Dandan.
Is it?
Click here, you move.
Hi, can you share the screen online? We cannot see it.
Cannot see the screen.
I think you.
Yeah, it's
paused.
people on the.
I paused the, see, sorry, that was, okay. Mhm. Okay. No problem.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Mandy Prince. So before we start, let me do a little introduction for myself. I was actually born and raised in Hong Kong, so I can fluently speak Cantonese and Mandarin. So if you guys have any questions in Chinese or different language, I will be sure to be able to accommodate that. I came to the US when I was 16, so I've been in the state for 16 years now. I came here for high school and then graduated from college from the Ohio State University with an accounting degree. And shortly after college, I went for my CPA license and got my license back in 2019. And I've been practicing tax ever since. So today, we wanted to talk about the big, beautiful bill that just passed back in July, and how does that affect education funding strategies, and what is the tax impact for the upcoming years. Arrow. Nope, it didn't go within the, sorry. Oh, I just clicked it. Okay, perfect. All right, so an overview for their big, beautiful bill. It was signed on July 4th, 2025. Mainly it extended their 2017 tax cuts permanently, which Donald Trump have signed it the first time when he was the president. He made this huge tax cut bill in 2027, and it was set to expire this year. So the big, beautiful bill major extends some of their benefits temporarily and most of them permanently. And we're going to go into a little details. One of the biggest benefits from the big, beautiful bill, they raised the state and local tax deduction. It was capped at 10,000. So a lot of people cap out on the itemized deduction, but it actually raised from 10,000 to 40,000. So a lot more people can get more tax cut and a benefit from itemizing their deduction, especially if you live in the state of California and pay a lot of state tax and property tax. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on our next slides. So for a key tax provision, so first of all, they extended the 2017 tax cut. They lowered the individual and corporate tax rate, so it stayed in place. Tax rates are not going up. And children tax credit has been expanded. It was not, they were proposing a 3,600 children tax credit per children, but it didn't go that high. So it's only 2,200 per children. So if you have a family of three children, you can save up to $6,000 annually for your children tax credit. So the SALT state and local tax cap So that's if you're itemizing, your state and local tax, including your DMV tax, your property tax, your local tax, your state tax that you pay, it was capped at 10,000 regarding you're single or married, but it's been raised to 40,000. So it makes a lot of people more eligible to itemize their deduction. And target deduction, there's a couple new temporary deduction that is upcoming for the next few years. Tips, if you're a child or if you are working in a restaurant and you get tips, 25,000 is exempt from tax, from income tax, so you save a little bit taxes here. Overtime pay, if you work overtime, over 40 hours a month, you are exempt. If you're single, you're exempt 12,500 annually. Those are not taxable. Your employer actually required to report your overtime pay on your W-2, so you will be exempt. And then if you're married, it's up to 25,000. Those are exempt. So those are new deduction from this big beautiful bill. Auto loan interest deduction, it's a very new, and I think it's kind of exciting. So if you buy a new car from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2028, your auto loan interest might be eligible for a deduction, and it's not part of the itemized. So similar to your mortgage interest deduction, but it's not an itemized, it's on top of your standard deduction. So this is a huge, I think it's kind of a huge deduction that people can start looking into if you're buying new cars. It could deduct up to $10,000 every year for the interest that you pay on your car. So QBI for the business owners, if they know your net income, it's taxable, and QBI, it's 20% of your taxable income from your business, from your pass-through entity. They are not taxable, and it was gonna expire this year, but they have extended it to permanently. So if you're a business owner and you're making profits from your company, 20% of the net profit from your company, it's not taxable deduction. All right. And then for the charitable deduction, this is not effective 2025, but in 2026, if you are not itemizing, if you're taking standard deduction, now you get to also take a deduction from your charitable donation up to $1,000 if you're single, $2,000 if you're married. So that gives you a little bit more deduction if you're taking standard deduction. But for those if you are itemizing, that actually kind of limits you, that you have to donate more than 0.5% of your AGI in order to take your charitable deduction. What does that mean? It's if your family, it's making 300,000 in your AGI, you have to donate more than 1,500 in order to take advantage of the charitable deduction, versus right now it's dollar for dollar. There's no limit. But starting in 2026, you have to make a donation more than 0.5% of your AGI in order to qualify for a charitable donation if you're itemizing. So these are the major tax impact from the big beautiful bill, and I'm going to talk about the tax effect education funding strategy, meaning the major one. It's our 529 college saving plans. So a lot of you may be familiar. This plan, it's first introduced in 1996, and it exists to help people to save money to go to college, and there's some tax advantage on it. So the advantage of it, it's if you put in money today and the growth in the account and when you take a distribution for qualified expenses for your education, for your tuition, books, room and boards, anything related to college are not taxable. And if you wanted to pay for pre-K to high school 12th grade, it's up to 10,000 that you can spend in a year, and it will still qualify as a qualified distribution, and you don't have to pay tax for it. And it also has a super funding strategy, meaning a parent can contribute 18,000 times 5, $90,000 a year without triggering any gift taxes. So you can put in 2025, 90,000 upfront for a kid, per kid. If you have multiple kids, it's 90 per kid upfront first year without triggering any gift tax or utilizing any of your lifetime gifting exemption. And even some of the state, our neighbor state, Arizona, Arkansas, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maine, they offer credits, state tax refund to parents if they contribute 529 for their children. And 529 in financial aid, it's also considered an assets to the account owner, not the student. So it will have a less impact on the financial aid application. It will still affect the student, but not as much as it's not going to be the owner, the assets of the student. So other education funding tools, we have the Coverdell ESA. It's a similar of a 529 plan, but it has a lot more limitation. It has a contribution limit for $2,000 per child per year. But it has a little bit more flexible use. It could be used for private school from pre-K to grade 12. But it has an income limit and you have to spend it before the age of 30. And also it's considered an assets to the student on a financial aid application. A custodial account, it doesn't have a huge benefit, but a lot of parents like to open up a money market or security account for their kids. It fall into the Unified Gift to Minor Act or the UTMA, Uniform Transfer to Minors Act. They're a custodial account that allows adults like your parents to hold and manage their financial assets for your children until they turn 18. They become an adult. And it doesn't have a whole lot of tax benefit, and a lot of time the capital gains in those accounts fall into the kiddie tax, meaning that whatever capital gains in that account or interest, it will be subject to your parents' tax rate. Educational tax credit, we have American Opportunity Tax Credit. It's up to $2,500 per student for their first 4 years of college. They have to be under the age of 24. And out of the $2,500, $1,000 is refundable and $1,500 is not refundable. Meaning if the student has earned income and they make enough money and they pay at least 2,500 taxes, they will get the full benefit of the 2,500 refund back from your tax return. However, if the student are not making money, they have minimal earn income and they're not paying taxes, they are only eligible for the $1,000 refund as opposed to the full 2,500. So sometimes the parents will claim the student as a dependent and claim it on their parent tax return, but it has a income limit, so the parents cannot make over a certain amount of money or they don't get benefit of it at all. LLC, it's a lifetime earning credit, so this one does not have an age limit. And it's up to $2,000 per return, and you can claim it however old you are if you decide to go back to school. And if you pay tuition, you are eligible for $2,000 non-refundable credit for your lifetime earning. Employer educational assistant, some employer, or if your parent is a business owner and they decided to pay their children wages or salary, they can fall into the section 127 from the IRC code that employers are allowed to pay your employees up to $5,250 in education, including it could be qualified education expense, it could be tuition, books, room and board, or student loan repayment, and they're tax-free. So it could be a business write-off, and it's not an earned income for for the employee.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, they have it a few years now. It's been going on, yeah,
Really?
yep. Scholarship and fellowship, it could be tax-free if you use it for educational fees and requires to apply for school. But if you don't, sometimes it could be taxable, right? All right. So, about this gift and legacy planning. So everybody annually, they have an exclusion of 18 in 2025, it's 18,000 that you can gift to anybody. It could be your grandchildren, your children, 18,000 per donor per recipient. So if you have 3 children, it's 18,000 each student, not or children, not in total 18,000 per person per donor. So in this case, like if grandparents also if grandparents are paying for their grandkids their tuition directly, it will not count as a gift tax and they can still transfer or give another 18,000 into a 529 plan. So grandparents paying for tuition does not consider a gift and it wouldn't trigger any gift tax. And then it's a fun fact that in 2024 to 2025 academic year, FAFSA just passed 529 plan owned by grandparents are no longer count as a student income, and it does not have to be reported on the financial aid application. So grandparents, grandparents wanted to help out their grandkids. That would be a great way to start. Yeah.
Rich grandparents.
Yeah. So it could, and then usually you have 2 grandparents, and it could be if per kids, they can contribute up to, I say, 80, over $100,000 into the 529 super funding plan without triggering any gift taxes. Right. And okay, so that kind of summarized everything that I go through. The tax impact from the big beautiful bill, how it extended the tax cut for employees, for taxpayers, so they continue with the lower tax rate, increase the children tax credit to help out family with kids. And they raised the state and local tax deduction cap. The QBI is a good news for business owners. They extended their 20% deduction from the business income and any special temporary deduction from tips, overtime, and auto loan interest.
Can you explain it to me? I didn't get that.
So QBI, it's when you have passed through income, meaning income from Schedule C, partnership, S corp. Let's say you make 200,000, 20% of that for 40,000, it's not taxable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So if the family's here, they have rental income. Does that? come
No,
from
only it has to be
active
like
business?
not non-passive, yeah, like a active
business.
business, yeah. So business owner, yeah.
Mm.
Yep. So you qualify every
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep. All right. And then the education tour with the how powerful 529 can be and the gift strategy. All right. And then Matthew, you wanna go on next?
Right.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Take all the questions at the end. You both can.
Okay, or if you want to do more.
No, I think we can go.
Yeah,
Go, yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Let me set up. Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Mandy. This is great.
Oh, great.
Okay. The mat. Okay, so you do that. You use this one. Matt, yeah, I'll show you this one. If
Okay.
you want to switch here, okay?
Okay, great.
Yeah. Mhm.
Great. Thank you, Dandan. Thank you, Mandy. Hello, everyone online. Welcome to everyone in the room. Nice to see you. Just want to start off saying that I think what Haddee is doing is really great. I know we're living in an era where there's a lot of anxiety if you're a parent with children, and a lot of anxiety about, what's going on everywhere. So, we can only focus on our, what we can actually control, which is sometimes our kids, sometimes not, right? So we can today focus a little bit on how to ease some of that anxiety with estate planning. And so many of you are going to be familiar with a lot of these topics today. We're trying to keep this at a very general, high level. And so today we're gonna cover three major areas in this estate planning section. So the primary goals of estate planning for a family. So family protection is number one. Gift, inheritance, and legacy planning is number two. And then tax considerations is number three. And so Mandy's covered, a lot of those already. We'll kind of integrate those into the way that tax and estate planning work together. And then we're going to talk about the most common type of estate plan structure in California, which is a revocable living trust plan. So let's see here. Whoops, what am I doing? Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm a lawyer, so I have to say this. This is not legal advice. So what we're going to do today is have a discussion. I've prepared some very general, high-level slides of topics that I would recommend someone thinking about estate planning would consider. This does not create an attorney-client relationship, so you need to consult your own attorney regarding the legal, tax, and financial issues and how they apply to your facts. I don't know you, so I can't say that these necessarily apply to you. So your circumstances might be different. So we're going to talk generally, and we can answer some questions at the end. All right, we're going to start with our first topic of the three, which is family protection. So when we think about family protection, we think of a few things. We think of guardianship for minor children. This is what I think, if you're a parent and you have children under the age of 18, I think this is the very most important part of an estate plan, because you can do all of these things to plan for what happens, in the unlikely, unpleasant scenarios we're going to think about. But if you haven't thought about guardianship, then I think you haven't done the very basic building block. And the good news on guardianship is that you can create your guardianship nominations for your children very simply. You don't even need an attorney's assistance. There's a form you can fill out yourself, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about protecting family members who have disabilities or other challenges. And we're going to talk about blended family dynamics. So that's basically like a Brady Bunch type family, where you have maybe one or both of mom and dad have children from before the marriage, and maybe there's children during the new marriage. And so you want to make sure everyone is protected. And then we're going to talk about incapacity planning. And that's the planning that we do for a scenario where you're alive, but for whatever reason, you're not able to make either financial or medical decisions for yourself. Okay. All right, guardianship. So there's different types of guardianship. What guardianship really means is for a minor, so someone under 18 years old, what happens if both mom and dad are not around to help? And so there's different types of guardianship. There's temporary guardianship, and this is for a short-term emergency. So let's say, for example, mom and dad go to New York to go see the Rockefeller Christmas show, and their flight gets canceled on the way home. And while they're at the airport trying to get home, something happens and there's an emergency, and their daughter slips and falls and hurts her, breaks her leg roller skating here in California. Who would be the person to take care of that emergency? And you can prepare for that with these documents. They're called short-term guardianship or temporary guardianship. Then there's the more significant type of guardianship planning, which is permanent guardianship. So what happens if there's no mom and no dad around for a long period of time, either because of an accident or a death or some other situation? Maybe someone has been incarcerated, or For whatever reason, they're not going to be around for a very long time. So who would take care of the kids? And there are different types of responsibilities that you can think about. Physical custody, that's called guardianship of the person. So this is like, who's going to decide where the kids go to school? Who's going to take them to school? If you're religious, who's going to take the kids to church? Who's going to decide what type of temple or church they go to? That's physical custody. Financial responsibility is called guardianship of the estate. So who's going to be responsible for making sure the tuition gets paid, making sure the kids have health insurance, making sure that their prescriptions are paid for, making sure there's food on the table, things like that require money. So that's guardianship of the person and guardianship of the estate. And that can be the same person. So let's say there's, grandma is really young and grandma would be the best person to raise the kids. She's also financially responsible. So grandma can be both guardianship of the person and guardianship of the estate. But that does not have to be that way. So let's say grandma would be the best person to raise the kids, but she has a gambling problem, so she can't be trusted with money. So instead, we have grandma be guardianship of the person, and we have maybe an uncle as guardianship of the estate, or an aunt, or someone else who is financially responsible. So you can decide whether to include those responsibilities together or not. So the legal documents that are used to nominate guardians, a last will and testament can name guardians, and that only applies after you have died. A power of attorney document can name guardians for what happens when you're alive, but not able to take care of the kids, so incapacity. And then in California, we have a standalone, that's a typo, standalone guardianship nomination form. This is what I mentioned a few minutes ago. So there's a 1 or 2 page document where you basically say, this is my name, these are the name of my kids, these are the name of the guardians, and you sign that, and that is effective. And so you can do all 3 of those, but at the very least, you should do that last one because it's very easy. And courts generally will defer to a parent's guardianship nomination. So if you were to have a guardianship form properly completed and you died in an accident or you became unavailable to raise your kids, the courts will almost always honor what you have chosen for the kids as far as their guardianship goes, unless there's evidence of the guardian that you've named having issues where it's not safe to have the kids in the house. All right, so that's guardianship. Let's see here. All right, so protecting family members with other challenges. We're going to talk about this pretty quickly, but you might have heard of these before. So one strategy is called a special needs trust, or sometimes it's called a supplemental needs trust. So this is basically a type of trust that you can set up to make sure that if you have a child or another beneficiary who has special needs, or they're getting government benefits because of some challenge that they're having, you can leave them an inheritance that won't jeopardize those benefits. So let's take a hypothetical. Let's say you have a child who has autism and is not high functioning. So they are a wonderful, happy kid, but they're not able to work because of where they are on the spectrum. And so in this kind of a situation, they might be currently or in the future getting some sort of government benefits since they're not able to work because of their situation. And so that might be Social Security income or Medicare or Medi-Cal. Maybe they're getting housing assistance, but they're getting some sort of government benefit. And you can set up a trust for that beneficiary in a way that you can leave their inheritance to help support them, but in a way that won't jeopardize those other benefits that are coming from the government. So tax funded benefits, you don't want to jeopardize those. So the money can be used for things like, vacations, happiness. Sometimes the trust can own a house for the beneficiary, but it can't be used to pay for things that are being covered by those government benefits. So let's say, healthcare is being covered by the government benefits. You don't want a trust that's going to be available for healthcare because otherwise the child might lose those other benefits. So if you have a child who's currently in this situation, so you know that this child is not going to be able to work, you can set up a special needs trust for them today. You don't have to wait until you die. This is often the case if there's going to be a settlement. So let's say, there was something that happened at the hospital and there was a lawsuit and your child has special needs because of what happened in the hospital, and you get those settlement benefits, you can use those to set up a special needs trust today. Or you can build into your own trust, your own living trust, the provisions that will say, in the future, when I die, I want my child's inheritance to be funded into a new special needs trust, and you can build in all of the required features of that trust. Excuse me. Discretionary trusts are similar, but in this case, you're protecting a beneficiary, not with a situation where they're getting government benefits, but maybe they have some other challenges in life where it might not be in their best interest to leave them a large amount of money that they can control. So for example, you might have a child or another beneficiary with financial instability. Maybe they have substance abuse challenges, or they have some other obstacle that is making it where you don't want to trust them with the money. If someone is going through some of these challenges in life, especially at a younger age, you can really do a lot of harm by leaving them a large amount of money. So if someone is not sort of responsible and like on their feet yet, and they're struggling with some of these issues, if they get a large amount of money, it can be very, very dangerous. And so you can set up an inheritance for them in a discretionary trust where you leave instructions for the trustee. So the person you trust to manage financial matters for you after you're not here, that person can make decisions about when to make distributions for this beneficiary and what for. So maybe you can say, please make sure that this money is available for a wedding, for educational expenses, for, fertility treatments to have children, but you don't want to just say, give them, $5,000 a month when you think that might be going for some sort of bad activity. All right. There we go. Blended or alternative family dynamics. So here is we say alternative, but it's actually the norm now. So, it's very common now for families to not look like Leave It to Beaver. So we have people getting married multiple times during their life. They have kids before they get married. They have kids from prior marriages. This is all, we live in a modern world. So this is something in my office we deal with every day. And there are a lot of great ways to make sure that all the kids and all the spouses are protected. So you want to make sure that children from a prior marriage don't get written out of their inheritances after you're not there to protect them anymore. You also want to make sure that your spouse who you're living with when you die is going to be protected, and that if you have really angry kids from a prior marriage, that they're not going to come and fight for everything. So there are some very easy ways that you can put things into your estate plan that will increase the likelihood that there will not be a lot of fighting after you're gone. And so some ways we do that is that we think about who the children are, what their needs are. If you have a situation where you have young children and older children, you might keep the entire inheritance in one trust to make sure that the younger children get their education paid for. So for example, let's say I have kids who are 5, 10, 15, and 20, and I die today. The 20-year-old, has already had 2 years of college paid for before I go. The 5-year-old has had no college paid for. So I want to make sure that all the kids get their college paid for. So I keep everything in one trust until the youngest child gets out of college, and then the distributions get made. That's one example of how you might protect for that. Another concern we often hear from clients is, what happens if, mom and dad come in and they say, what happens if one of us dies and the other one gets remarried? How are we going to protect the kids? How do we want to protect the kids? So one way we do this is we say that the surviving spouse, if he or she gets remarried after the first spouse dies, they have to have a prenup or a premarital property agreement that protects the children from this marriage, and it protects the trust assets. And if they get married without a prenup, they basically the spouse loses their rights to the trust. And that's one way you can help protect the kids. All right. We're going to keep moving here. Is there a trick to this button? Did you? Oh, yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay, incapacity planning. So now we're talking about Usually it's something to deal with old age, but not always. So what happens, and this is a silly little cartoon about what happens when we get older and the different things that we need. So this is like a play on the Macbeth witches, but basically incapacity planning is thinking about what happens if I'm alive and I'm not able to make financial decisions for myself. So maybe I'm in a coma, maybe I have dementia, or maybe there's some other situation where for whatever reason I can't control my own finances anymore, but I'm still alive. Or similarly, I can't make medical decisions. So incapacity planning is how we plan for that. So the questions to think about are who would determine when you were incapacitated? So in your estate planning documents, you can say who decides when you are no longer able to manage your affairs. So the most common approach is to say that physicians will make the determination, but it does not have to be physicians. You could say one physician and my spouse. If they both agree that I can't manage my affairs, then these documents become effective. Or you can name what's called an incapacity panel. So you can choose a number of people to serve on this panel. And if all of them or a majority of them agree that you're no longer able to manage your affairs, then you will be deemed to be incapacitated. So often if you have mom and dad come in, they have 2 adult children and 2 minor children, and the adult children are both responsible. They'll say the incapacity panel is the other spouse plus the 2 adult children. And if all of them agree, then we don't have to go through this process of getting a physician to issue an opinion letter that mom or dad has lost capacity. So this is particularly important as you get a little bit older. It can be relevant when you're younger, but it's more common for this to start becoming more relevant as people age and as we start to get into an age where we might have like a dementia diagnosis or Alzheimer's or early onset Alzheimer's or something where there's going to be a lack of cognitive ability. It's really important to get these documents in place. So for financial management, the document is called a power of attorney document. You've probably heard about these. And they are called durable power of attorney documents because it says that the document says, if I become incapacitated, so if I'm alive but no longer able to manage my affairs, this document still stays in effect. It's durable. And it's springing, meaning it does not spring into effect until I am incapacitated. So in this document, you choose who will manage financial affairs for you if you can't. Most of the time, when a married couple comes in, the spouse is named as the first power of attorney agent. So mom says, if I'm unable to manage my affairs, then dad does this. And dad says the same thing about mom. But it's not always that way. Sometimes it's someone else, a sister or a friend. And it's always good to have at least 2 so that if the first person you name can't serve, you have a backup. So what happens if there is no power of attorney and you get into a situation where you're not able to manage your financial affairs? Well, at that point, the only option is conservatorship, which is a really horrible process to have to go through. Conservatorship is a court process where when someone is no longer able to manage their finances and they don't have an effective power of attorney, their family members or other loved ones can go to court and petition to be named conservator or petition to have a conservator appointed. And a conservator then becomes that person's legal guardian effectively. And you might have heard about this in the context of Britney Spears a few years ago. So that was in the news a lot. Britney Spears, when she was younger and had substance abuse problems, her father petitioned the court to be named her conservator. So he was in legal control of all her finances for years and years and years. It's a very public, very expensive proceeding. So you can avoid this by having a power of attorney document. You can also have a power of attorney document that says, if for whatever reason I ever am subject to a conservatorship proceeding in court, here's the person I want to name conservator. And if you say that in your power of attorney document, while you still have capacity, courts will they're very deferential to that. So this way you can prevent an unwanted family member from ever becoming your conservator by saying, okay, even if they bring a conservatorship proceeding, this is the person who I would want to be my conservator. So if you have a situation where there's power struggles with family members and you're concerned about a family member trying to take advantage of you, one way to prevent that is to have a power of attorney document that names who your conservator should be if you ever need one. And then very similarly, we have a separate document for healthcare. It's called an Advanced Healthcare Directive in California. And this document says, if I'm not able to make medical decisions, who will make them for me? And it's very important to have this document. Now, this document also can leave your preferences about what we like to call the morbid choices. It doesn't have to. You can leave these parts blank, but the document allows you to say, here are my preferences for life support, organ donation, and what I want to happen to my remains. And so it's really unpleasant to think about that. But if you have strong feelings about whether you would want to be kept on life support if you were in a coma, or whether you want organ donation, or if you prefer to be buried, cremated, or composted after you die, this is a place you can put that. Oh, I should note also that not to make light of this, I know this is very serious, but we do now have composting coming in California. So in addition to being buried or cremated, if you prefer to become soil, I think it's 2027, we're going to have that starting in California. One thing to think about for parents in the room who have college-age children, this is a good time for the children to start understanding that they need to be responsible for their own life, right? And so once you're 18, you can have a power of attorney document and you can have a healthcare directive. So often I have parents come to me and say, my son or daughter is going off to college, and, would you talk to them about doing these documents? And the kids might not have assets yet, so they may not need a trust or a will today, but they're going off to college. Something could happen to them. It's not good to think about it, but it's good to be prepared for it. So if they are 18 or older and they're going off to college and you want to make sure that you're still going to be able to help them, you need to talk to them about having an advanced healthcare directive and a power of attorney that names you as their agent. Because otherwise it might be very difficult for you to make decisions for them depending on the situation. All right, keeping moving here. Let's see. Oops. What did I do? Sorry, Mooney, I didn't mean to highlight you there. Oh, yeah, there we go.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm trying.
thank you, Mandy.
Let me see if I can go back to present.
There we go.
But it's not going to the next one, Dan.
Use the bottom.
Use the bottom.
No, here. It's not moving.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Fine now? Okay.
We're going to talk a little bit about gift, inheritance, and legacy planning. So this is really about the thing, a lot of times people think about estate planning around only this area. So this is probably something you've thought about. This is really about who gets your stuff after you no longer need it. Okay, so gift and inheritance planning. Who will get my stuff? So this is thinking about planning for your surviving spouse, structuring inheritances for your children and grandchildren, and then gift planning. And so this might include, for example, lifetime gifts like Section 529 education plans that Mandy talked about. And it might be planning for your annual gift tax exemption. So how do you give a gift without eating into your lifetime gift tax credit? Let me say just a quick word about that. We'll come back to this in a minute. But every person has what's called a lifetime estate and gift tax credit. And so this is the credit that allows you to give property away without any transfer taxes. And transfer taxes are typically a 40% tax. So it's very good to not be subject to that tax if you can avoid it. One way to avoid it is to give these annual gifts. And Mandy was talking about how you can do that gifting for education purposes with the 529 plan. So every year, every person gets a stated dollar amount of a gift that they can give to anyone else. And any gifts to that person up to that amount are not going to reduce your lifetime credit against the estate tax. And so currently for 2025, that's $18,000 per person. So I could give $18,000 to 10 different people. So I've given $180,000 away, but there's no gift tax consequence because I've only given 18 to each person. Next year in 2026, that goes up to 19,000. So you can do some more planning. Okay, so structuring your inheritances, you have a choice when you're leaving an inheritance to your children or your grandchildren. And we've talked a little bit about how you might protect beneficiaries who have some problems from themselves, or preserve their benefits if they're getting benefits. But let's think about just the other situation where you just want to make sure that your kids have some asset protection. So often people just leave money to their children. So they say, if I die, then, I have two children and they get it 50-50. So each child gets half of whatever I own when I die. Well, let's say they suddenly die young and the kids are 17 years old. Now the kids, or 18 years old, they're going to now get half of what you own at your die, but they may not be responsible enough for that. So if they're under 18, they will, that inheritance would have to be held in what's called an UTMA account or an UGMA account that Mandy talked about. If they're 18 or older, though, they would get that money right away. And so we're always worried about an 18-year-old receiving, $100,000 or $1 million or something like that, and going and blowing it in one hot weekend in Vegas. We want to make sure that does not happen. So instead, what we like to recommend is that the money is held in your trust until the kids are a suitable age. So whatever that age is, you decide. Maybe it's 25, 30, 35. Maybe it's staged. So maybe they get, 1/3 at 25, 1/3 at 30, and the rest at 35. Or maybe that stays in trust forever and you just give them the ability to be the trustee of their own trust when they're responsible enough. So there's a lot of choices and a lot of things to think about there. You can also leave incentive trusts where the trust money is available only to encourage certain behaviors, particularly under a certain age. So let's say for education purposes, you want to make sure that all of this money is available to get the kids through graduate school. So you say until they are 30 years old, or 25 years old, or whatever you think the right age is, the money can only be used for educational purposes and healthcare. And then after they get to that age, maybe they get the rest. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Dandan, I think I need your help again. Let's see.
What do you need?
I think to the wrong.
Okay, no worries, yeah, that's here.
Okay.
You want to go next?
Yeah, next slide.
It sounds interesting, huh? It doesn't.
Yeah. Do you want me to
stuck.
get my computer out or?
Oh, no, that's fine. Should be fine. That's, yeah. Okay, I think that's fine. You just
Okay.
present like that.
Okay, that's fine.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on now to tax considerations. And so we're going to not spend a ton of time on this because Mandy already covered everything very well. But just at a very high level, from an from a tax planning perspective, we're usually worried about 4 potential types of taxes. So income tax, everyone here knows what income tax is because they pay that. So there's federal income tax and state income tax. And this is tax on your wages, tax on your rental income, tax on your investment income. And we all know what these are because we pay this every year. From an estate tax perspective, actually, let me go through the 4 taxes. So income tax, property tax. So this is a state tax that applies if you own real property, and it applies to residential property and to rental property. So if you own any of these types of real estate investments, you know what property taxes are because you pay them every year and they're very high. Federal transfer taxes. So I just talked about this a little bit. The US taxes you on the ability to give your property away unless it is below that exemption amount. And so estate tax is the tax that applies when you give property away when you die. Gift tax is the same as the estate tax, more or less, but it applies when you're alive and you make a gift. So those 2 taxes work together. And then I'm not going to go into great detail on this, but there's a 3rd tax called the generation skipping transfer tax. And this is a similar tax to the estate and gift tax, but it applies most of the time when grandparents make gifts to grandkids or further down generations. So when you skip a generation, they want to make sure that you're not skipping a generation of taxation. And then finally, state transfer taxes. So this is just like estate and gift tax, but instead of the IRS, it's the state taxing authority. So the good news, a little good news about California is that California does not have a state estate tax. We tax almost everything else here in California, as you probably know, but we don't tax gifts and we don't tax inheritances. So this is really relevant in Connecticut, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont, Washington State, and Washington, D.C. And then there are inheritance taxes that also apply in a few states. But in California, we don't have to worry about that. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on that today. On income tax planning, so the planning for income taxes for estate planning purposes is mostly focused on two things. One is making sure that your estate plan is structured in a way that the inheritance that you leave for your children or other beneficiaries is not going to burden them with a large capital gains tax. So let's talk about maybe you bought Apple stock when it was at a very low valuation and you own it today and it's worth, a gazillion dollars a share. If you were to sell that Apple stock today, you would have a capital gains tax on the difference between what you paid for it and what you sold it for. Instead, if you leave that Apple stock in your trust, in your living trust to your children, they will inherit that stock and all of that capital gains exposure gets wiped away by what's called the basis step up at death. And so they can turn around and sell that stock and pay no capital gains tax after you die. Similar result with real estate and other assets. So a lot of the income tax planning is around making sure that your estate plan is structured in a way that will get the best benefit for your beneficiaries in the future from this basis step up. Charitable planning is also a big piece of this. So there are things you can do in your estate plan today that may generate charitable contribution deductions for you today. And so we can talk, you can talk to your lawyer about what those kinds of things are. And then planning for taxable retirement accounts. So these rules changed pretty recently, like in the last 3 or 4 years. This is talking about 401k, IRA, 453B, 403B, the types of retirement accounts where you are an employee or you have earned income and you're using that earned income or wages to make pre-tax retirement contributions. So it used to be in the old days, you could have a beneficiary named on this account, and after you die, they would get to take distributions for the rest of their lifetime. It's not so easy now. So surviving spouses can still do that and a small number of other people, but most beneficiaries now have to take their distributions within 10 years instead of over their entire lifetime. So you want to make sure that your estate plan is structured in a way that gets the best possible tax outcome for these accounts for your beneficiaries. For property taxes, these are the planning here for your estate tax is, if possible, you want to structure your estate plan so that if your beneficiary is going to be inheriting your real property, that if there's an exemption available from reassessment, they're going to qualify for that. So this used to be in the old days, but when I first started doing this, anyone could give any kind of real estate to their children and there would be no reassessment. So you could basically inherit the property and you'd get that old property tax bill where the county assessor had assessed it back in 1980 when you first bought the property. It's not that way anymore for most types of property. When you die and leave this to your children, if it's directly or through a trust, the children will have a step up so that the property tax goes up. There's one exception now, and that's for residences. So if you have a primary residence and you leave it to a child who also uses that as their primary residence after you die, then they may be eligible for an exemption from property tax reassessment. And so this is called Prop 19. It came into effect, I think, in 2021. 22, and it's the rules we're living at. The good side of that, so I think that's sort of from a planning perspective, when I think about clients, I think this is a bad law. I wish it had not gone into effect. But there is a good side to this, which is that if you're 55 or older, you can now sell your house and you can buy another house anywhere in California of greater or lesser value, and you can take that old property tax assessment with you. So there's one good thing in that law. And then finally, for federal transfer taxes, so estate and gift taxes, there's a lifetime credit amount. So every person can give gifts of up to this lifetime credit amount with no estate or gift tax. And so right now in 2025, it's 13.99 million per person. That goes up to 15 million per person in 2026. This is one of those tax provisions that was made permanent in the recent BBB, Big Beautiful Bill Act. And that means that starting in 2026, it's 15 million per person indexed for inflation every year. If you're married, that basically more or less means $30 million for the couple because of something called portability. And what portability means is if I'm married and I die and I don't use all of my 15 million, my spouse can take whatever unused credit I have when I die. And so as a couple, it's really a $15 million exemption. All right, so other advanced planning strategies. This is a little bit beyond what we're going to get into today, but living trusts are the main vehicle for estate planning. When you're trying to do some advanced tax planning, particularly around estate and gift taxes, you might look at more advanced trust structures. You might look at charitable trusts. You might look at some irrevocable trusts. And those are things that you would obviously want to talk to your lawyer and your CPA about. Okay. And then where are we here? Okay, so we're gonna, those are the three main topics. I did want to just quickly go over what a revocable living trust estate plan looks like in case you have never thought about this before. And so I'm just going to show you a picture here. So basically the box in the middle is the living trust. And so I forgot to talk about probate. Sorry. One of the main reasons we do living trusts is to avoid probate. So probate is a court proceeding that is very long and very expensive and is necessary in California and most states if you die with no estate plan in place or if all you have is a will. If you have a trust and the trust is properly funded while you're alive, then your beneficiaries are likely not to need to go through a court probate proceeding. So all of those other benefits we just talked about also apply. This is one of the primary reasons, though. You don't want, when you die, for your kids to have to go to court and spend 18 months in court and pay lawyers, a percentage of your estate just to wind up your affairs. You can use a living trust and avoid all of that. So the box in the middle is the living trust. I like to talk about the metaphor of the box. So a living trust is a box that you put your things into while you're alive. You tape some instructions on the front of the box that say who's allowed to hold the box after you're no longer alive or able to hold it, and who gets the stuff that's in the box after you're gone. And by doing that, when you die, instead of going to court, the box just gets handed to the person you've named as the successor trustee, and they follow those instructions, and there's no court proceeding. So the trust is the box, and into that trust, you put things like real property, personal property, which is like jewelry, artwork, things you can touch, bank accounts, brokerage accounts, stocks, closely held businesses, intellectual property. You can put cryptocurrency, you can put NFTs, you can whatever you might have, you can put them in the trust, almost everything. We'll talk about what you can't put in the trust. So all these assets are in the trust, and the trust says who the future trustees are after me. So after I can't hold this box, who gets it, and who gets the stuff that's in here. So the trustee manages and controls the box. That's you while you're alive, and it's the successor trustee after you're gone. If you're married, the two spouses together can put one trust instead of one trust, and they're both the trustee. Economic benefits of that property in the box go to your beneficiaries. That's also you while you're alive. And then you say in the instructions who it is after you die. So if you have children, they're probably on the list of beneficiaries, but it doesn't have to be the kids. It can be charities, it can be friends, it can be other family members. You say who gets the stuff in the box. And then you have what's called a pour over will. So it's a last will and testament that's a safety net to make sure that after you die, if you forgot to put something in the box, the will make sure that it gets into the box. My will say, if I die and I own something in my own name, I leave it to my trust under my will. And so those are the primary documents for the revocable living trust structure. There are certain assets that can't be put in the box while you're alive. So retirement accounts, tax deferred retirement accounts. The IRS requires that those are owned by the employee. So I can't transfer ownership of my 401k or my IRA into my trust. I can, however, name my trust as a beneficiary. And that's something that often I'm advising clients to do. I say, depending on the circumstances, what I'm often saying is name your spouse as your primary beneficiary because they get a spousal rollover that's still very tax favored, and then name the trust as the secondary so that the kids have some asset protection for those accounts. Life insurance technically can be owned by the trust, but in my experience, it can cause some complications. And so often I'm advising clients to name a trust as a beneficiary of life insurance, similarly with annuities. All right. I'm going to skip that slide because I think we've kind of gone through it. And I think that's it. Here's my contact information. I'm happy to field questions. You can write my email address down. If you'd like to send me an email after this to ask a question about anything that you don't want to raise in the Q&A. Also, just a quick note, my business partner, Jamie, and I, we have 2 offices. So I cover Southern California. So my clients are typically in the desert or Los Angeles, Orange County, or San Diego. And my partner, Jamie, she works in Oakland and services the Bay Area. So Berkeley, Oakland, San Francisco, South Bay. All right, thank you.
Oh, very good. Very, very comprehensive. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm going to put also the both share and here you guys, this is Matt and Mandy. I need to give your phone number. I just called you. Yeah, we're gonna type in. Yeah. It's yeah, you can type in the chat, right? Okay, so Mandy will, and Mandy also have WeChat as well. Matt, if you want to enter this community, sign up WeChat. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. and speak Mandarin, okay? Yeah. So it's very good. Okay, so I want to kind of highlight the importance of these 2 topics. As human beings living in this society, the 2 things, it's inevitable. One is death. Everybody will die. One is paying tax. If you work, you must pay tax. So those are inevitable. Those are very uncomfortable topics. People don't want to talk about it. And I hate dealing with taxes. But we have to face it. We have to deal with it. So I hope this is as important as education. They're all linked together. And when you have kids, have a family, you know, for sure, I would go get a living trust. It doesn't really matter. You only have a car, you have a, you know, just a rental home, because you're going to have a little bit of a, you know, Social Security, a little bit of a retirement account. Now, once you buy a home, a little bit of stock options. So as a little bit, you don't want to, if something happens, you don't want to go to court to do probation. And I don't know how to translate into Chinese, the probation, but yeah, the reason I know probation very well, I'm not an expert. My husband's auntie, full-time job all her life dealing with probation because she's in San Diego and she works with an attorney firm dealing with probation, going to court, even a watch, a piece of furniture, and it can be a very lengthy process if you don't have a will, and you know, will is part of the living trust act together. Okay, so that's one thing. Second thing about tax is we all want to save money. Nobody want to, you know, pay CPAs or attorney. You guys are expensive. It is. It's a, you know, because it's a service based. However, you can use Intuit. You can go look up the code. Sometimes you don't know what you are missing. I miss a lot of things if I would be missed a lot of things if I were doing myself. And here I have CPA guiding me and telling me, like the QBI, Mandy, you might be doing QBI for me. You know, I don't know when this is, but I would never know. How would I know that kind of pass through the 20%? Forget about it, because I do own a business, right? But if it's somebody, they have a rental income and they become a real estate agent, that passive maybe become active. Maybe QBI, can be applicable. I don't know, right? So I'm not here giving any advice, okay? So guys, I'm the last person to give any advice. I'm just sharing with you my own experiences. And I posted something about a month ago when I was in Seattle. I posted a very interesting note is sometimes you don't want a nickel and dime to save money that could cost money. It was a life event for me. I don't want to go through the details. My own things is you make money, you're gonna spend it. Yeah, we all want to save. Everybody want to save, save, save. But at the end, you want to hand over the right expert to do right things because we're not super being, we're not AI, but even AI cannot solve all the things, right? You need to ask the right question. So for the accounting, the tax saving, I'm not here to selling Mandy's service, okay? I'm coming here from my own experience. And also, again, I disclose that I have no financial relationship with either of them, not, okay? So that's very clear, swear to God, okay? So, the going back is, you want to have expert, you want a doctor to treat you. If something happens, you want to treat yourself, it could be done if it's minor, but can be very serious. So you go to doctor, it's the same thing. If you want to really understand and have tax saving for your whole family, I would definitely work with a CPA. It doesn't have to be Mandy or anybody, you already have a CPA. Somebody you can trust, somebody who really cares about your family situation, like a tax saving. Okay, that's number one. Number two, attorney. Some of you may know me. I'm not going to go talk about my experience with attorneys. I've been very, very lucky to work with some great attorneys, including Matt and other attorneys. And sometimes when you hire attorney, you have to hire attorney. You can't deal with yourself, some situation. Always I tell you, living trust, maybe you can get by, very inexpensive, but there are cases you might be missing. So I would, I would really suggest you guys working with attorney, especially you have a family. You already have a kid, maybe just born a couple years old. But if you have a family in California, in other states as well, right? You need a living trust, right? Yeah.
Like similar to, if you have a very simple situation.
Yeah.
You might be able to use
Yeah.
the same thing.
Okay.
If it's a very simple situation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If it's a very, very simple situation, Matt said you might be able to, just like a CPA, you can use Intuit, right? But when it gets a little bit complicated, working with attorney is definitely beneficial, right? Okay, so yeah, the third thing now I'm advertising for us, right? College counseling, right? So yeah, a lot of kids don't use college counseling, completely fine. But if the kid wants more choices, if the parents want the kid to have more choices, if either kid, a parent, or both kid and parents are a little bit stressed about the process, I would definitely encourage you seek college counseling. Okay, so that's having the right special person, 专人做专事, specialist take care of your special needs. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so now Matt, you want to sit here? Matt, yeah, we're gonna go ask questions. Yeah, yeah. So with three, yeah, you need to keep your microphone down because we can only have. So the questions, Matt, compared to leave kids to with profitable stocks to avoid capital gain tax and transfer them early to avoid inheritance, which one's better? Assuming the stock will go up a lot down the way.
Yeah,
Okay?
it kind of depends on the situation, but if you are not going to be subject to estate tax, which today means if a single person is going to have $15 million or less, or a married couple is going to have $30 million or less that they're leaving for an inheritance, then in that scenario, it would be better to leave the stock in a way that will allow the kids to get the basis step up for income tax planning, because there will be no estate tax exposure. The only time it really makes sense to move those capital gain assets out of your estate tax or out of your taxable estate while you're alive is if we think you're going to be subject to estate tax when you die.
Yeah. So it's very clear. Hopefully we answer the question. if your stock's gonna be 15 million or more, I mean, the entire family is 30 million, then have more advanced, complicated tax planning with support of math is definitely very beneficial. But if it's not gonna go up that much, yeah, below 15, I think it's fine, right? You don't have to
Yeah,
move.
and a single parent has 15 million. That's
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, so that means you need a living trust, not more, not the other type of trust,
Right,
right?
if it's 15 million or less, you can probably achieve what you want to do with a living trust.
Yeah, a living trust is it's a necessity. It doesn't matter. You have, $10,000 or 15 million. You just don't want to go to probation. That's it. Yeah. Okay. So how much estimated to do a living trust case? Okay, here you go.
That's a good question. I think
Mhm.
I encourage you to reach out to the email I sent you and we can have a conversation about it. I don't want to advertise my services
Yeah.
here today, but
Mhm.
I'm happy to give you, if you reach out to me, I'll send you information about my law firm's pricing. There's a range. The most affordable is going to be a do-it-yourself online service, and the most expensive is going to be a large law firm, and in between is going to be in between those two. So
That's right.
Yeah.
And also depending on complexity.
Yeah.
Of your family situation here. Yeah. So then Leah said, can QBI, okay, that's Mandy question. Can QBI to be applied to W-2 issues by other employer?
No, it cannot. Well, the calculation of the QBI, it's for your own company, like you 20% of your net income, and then it's comparing 50% of the W-2 pay from your company, and they take the lesser of it. And most of the time it's the 20% of your net income. It's lesser than the W-2 wages, 50% of the W-2 wages that you pay to your employees. And they take the lesser of it, but you cannot count any other employer. It will have to be that specific company.
Okay, so hopefully that's clear. And so I have a question about the employer. So if I have a company, the employee education that you can pay the employee, but it has to be every single employee or just
It will have to be
every single, yeah, so that's a consistency. You cannot just, you can,
You cannot.
yeah, but does owner count, or owner doesn't count? You can count, okay. Okay, so, yeah, so if you have, business, maybe you have to, the education, stipend or whatever the payment to your employee has to be consistent, okay. So, okay, very good question. What happens if 529 is not used up?
So there's a couple of options. So the most expensive option is if you don't use it and you just want to take the money out, you'll be subject to 10% penalty, and you just have to pay their earnings, not your basis, not the amount that you contribute in, but their earnings, the growth in ordinary income. But there's other options that you can do. It could be roll over to a Roth IRA for your beneficiary. So if you have leftovers and your kids doesn't want to use it, it could be an IRA for your kid. Yeah, so that usually that's the best outcome. And so, and then, or if you have another kid that they're going to college in the future, you can roll it over to another kid too.
Okay, so, yeah, so you're saying, say, like, if some high-tech parents, contributing to 90,000, like the first year or something.
The first.
And if the kid was just born, and if you calculate how much they grow, they're gonna grow a
They
lot,
can
right,
grow a
right?
lot,
Yeah, if
yeah.
the market is consistently performing,
Yeah,
like in the past 10 years. Okay, so then, and the kid gets full ride somewhere, merit-based scholarship, right? And then that all can be all rolled over or
into,
every single thing?
yeah,
Okay,
and all be
that's
rolled
great.
over, yeah.
Okay, this is a new thing, right? The rules, they have limitation.
They have-
How much?
They might, I can look into it,
Yeah.
but like the cabinet, not,
The whole chunk.
but most of it could be roll over,
Okay.
or it could be roll over to grandkids, like other beneficiary down the roll.
Okay, the
If you have
grandkids.
another kid or other kid, yeah, it can be rolling to another beneficiary.
Okay, because that can be a very good problem, right?
Yeah.
So roll over, okay, and then the contribution is tax-free, 529, a gross is
No,
tax-free.
only the growth.
The growth is tax-free, the contribution is not tax-free, okay, that's 529. But if the grandparents don't count, if I'm as a parent, I give the children set up 529, And now this going to FAFSA, right? So when the,
You will have to list it, because the parent, when you're filling out your FAFSA application, your parents, the assets of the parents will also have to be listed, right?
so the
So
520 counted as a
It will,
parents.
yeah, but not the grandparents, but if the parent will be
Oh,
listed.
okay, okay. So the best thing is to have grandparents.
Yeah, then it wouldn't show up on the financial aid application.
And then if they don't use it, they can still roll over to the kids.
Yes, it can, what do you mean? Like,
Roll over to Roth IRA.
if they don't end up using all
Yeah,
of it, but I
okay.
think there's limitation, I think like someone's showing there is a tax every year.
How much?
I think
Yeah, so, okay, so, yeah, so I know some of our students are eligible for financial aid. And then right now, some of you are filling out the FAFSA. And then here is Mandy saying, if you do have a 529 for your students, 529, whatever the money count is counted as part of the asset, as parents' asset. Right? Yeah, yeah. So now I'm not here to try sell insurance, okay, not at all, but I know we have some folks that have been experts. So I heard if you buy a life insurance IUR for your student when the student just born, because it's quite cheap, and that grows tax-free. So that one in money in the kids insurance, does that count as the asset for FAFSA?
No.
Okay. Okay, so life insurance does not count as part of the asset. So there's a pros and cons, right? Because there's expenses on life insurance as well. Okay, so I think we beat this to death. Very good. And then, so then the other question, the grandparents. So now the parents are asking, the grandparents must live in US to have a 529?
They don't have to be a US citizen or resident to contribute to 529 plan, but they might not be able to be the owner. So it might have to be the parent open it. the
Okay,
Owner, and then they can contribute it.
okay, so then if the parent's the owner, then it doesn't matter. Then the content part of the FAFSA.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So the question indirectly, yeah, I think the owner needs to be, can you double check?
Yeah, no,
Oh.
I am.
Yeah, so Mandy is very mature. Yeah, so move all your grandparents. Have the grandparents sell the properties in Beijing and Shanghai, move to US. I'm just kidding. Okay, here. Okay, this is recorded, so a lot of them is kidding, okay? Can you share the screen? Okay, we're good. Yeah, we already shared. Okay. So let me see. Yeah, more question coming. What is the best approach to pay kids if the kids help you with business? Yeah, so that's a Mandy question.
Oh, okay. It, I think there's a couple of ways, and it also depends on like, what is your business structure? too,
Okay.
Because if you are a Schedule C or S corp or partnership, it could be totally different.
Okay,
And it depends on how much you're making as well, so that's more on things that they can.
oh, yeah.
So microphone is kind of far. Sorry. So this is a good question. It really depends on the nature of the business, what type of business you are, because it could be a different strategy for Schedule C, S corp, partnership. They all have different rules on paying your children. So, if it's a S corp, let's say if it's a S corp, so S corp, it's your kids, no matter how old are they are subject to their self-employment tax if you're paying them W-2. And then, the only other way is you could paying them 1099 if they're only working for part-time. And that could, if they are earning income, they could be subject to, standard deduction or earned income deduction that they can not pay tax on certain earned income, but, for S corp, the only option it's either W-2 or 1099. And, so yeah, and then W-2 are not exempt from self-employment tax, and it's kind of an expensive way to pay your kids. But you could benefit from paying them if they're your only employees in their company, you can pay them the education for the $5,250 in school, or tuition. It could be anything, and it could be a deduction for the business, and it's not a income for the kids. How old the kids must be? Is there an age limit to get paid 1099 from a S corp? There's no legal age limit. I have seen a kid that it's 3 years old and get paid from Abercrombie to be a model.
You're
Yes.
kidding me.
Yeah, I have seen it.
3-year-old, how can, is this an IRS gonna be audited?
But they do have to pay kitty tax and, you know, like all of that, stuff, but there's no real age limit. Some CPA, some other people may say at least 7 or older, because they have a meaning, like to be intelligent to do some meaningful work. But I have seen very young kids receive W-2
I'm
wages.
learning a lot
Yeah.
today. Oh my God. So open the business, but it has to be legitimate business and pay your 3-year-old. Okay, I'm just kidding. Yeah, go ahead.
14-year-old kid wants to open his
Good. Yeah.
Roth IRA account, the money he has to, yes, he must have earned income to contribute into any Roth IRA, 401k or anything. Yeah.
So, okay, that's good.
And earned income cannot be passive income. It cannot be capital gain from investment account, interest income, those don't count. It has to be earned income.
Has to be earning.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, so have your kids go work. We always say go to work in Starbucks, okay? Okay, that's very good. And then, let me see, any other question, anything you're gonna think about? Mhm. For this whole thing? Yeah, oh, there's one more, yeah, here. To me directly, isn't
2020.
Okay, that's a bad
20
question.
So the question was the annual gift limit for 2025. So for 2025, it's $18,000.
Mhm.
In January of 2026, it goes up to $19,000. So it was increased for inflation from 18 this year to 19 next year.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's interesting. I was looking at, I don't know, there's a show on YouTube about a young dude, it's like 21. He always interviews billionaires. Billionaire, like a really, really, really rich people, right? Make a lot of money, billionaire or 100 millionaire or something. One day I watched him interview a guy who made a lot of money, and the guy publicly said that he doesn't pay any tax. And then he said, no, I'm not, this is all legal. And he told everybody, I forgot that show, he told everybody the best thing, you go get your CPA, get your attorney, everything's legal. And but you guys know Donald Trump doesn't pay much tax, right? So yeah, the strategy is pretty important. Yeah. So IRS show 2025 is
I
19K.
could be wrong about that. Let me-
Yeah, but that's okay, 18 or 90K. Yeah, because each year. 90K. Okay, that's
Okay.
fine. That's fine.
I was wrong. I changed that. Thank you. Thank you to Gina for pointing that out. So
Yeah.
apparently it's 19,000 for
Yeah.
2025.
Okay, yeah, there's not much difference.
Yeah.
Okay, so regarding the tax, about the FAFSA, like, so questions, Mandy, when do we have to start? I mean, we can fill out now because for next year, right? And we have to, we're gonna fill out now. Like, how do we pay early, like preparation? Early preparation means like, I'm on W-2. There's no way my kids can get FAFSA. Okay, we've been working here for many, many years. And however, there's newly immigrants, and there are parents that don't make much money. The parents maybe before was have a good job and now got lost. Like, when do you think the family should start preparing, like making sure they can get the money?
Well, that's a very hard question. And
That's a
then,
hard question.
yeah, and then a lot of like people, families situation changes. I have immigrant family come to me. They might not have much in the US, but they have a lot of huge foreign estate. So I would say like 2 years, sophomore year, starting looking into like your whole income and like your analyzing it with the attorney or CPA, whoever can help you with, and then maybe there's room to like transferring things, or your net worth of the company can be transferred to somebody, or transferring some ownership, and it could help increasing the chance of getting financial aid.
Yeah.
What is your advice for children to
Okay.
file?
While you're looking at, let me answer, add, so, sorry, we're using my computer, so move around a little bit. Yeah, so, what Mandy's saying, that to prepare, just like a college counseling, right? You can come in 12th grade, no problem, we'll help you, but we'll help with whatever the kids already done with the grades, the SAT, the activities, right? But if you come in 9th grade and 10th grade, we could have more influence. We can't say we're 100% gonna, kids gonna listen to us 100% what we suggest, but there's more room for adding activities or reducing activities, right? And encourage kids to get better grades down the road. So there's more room. Same thing. If you coming in, if you want a Mandy to fill out, and you can email me, or we can give you the information. Then you can ask Mandy to fill out the form. It's a paid service, because fill out the form, it takes some time to ask you some questions. That's whatever it's done. So if you come in, look at the 9th grade and 10th grade, start thinking about it, your family is on borderline. Some families, there's no way they can get financial aid. Okay. Some families, you don't need to do anything. They will get financial aid because there's no money, nothing, right? So, and some in the borderline, they might want to start a little bit early, because for you to fill out a FAFSA this year, you have to use the tax return 2024. That means last year. And your kids is going to college in 2026. Say you have to use a tax return when the 10th grader. So for this kind of plan, you need to start a little bit early. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Okay. Mandy, the question. Okay.
So the question is, what is your advice for children to file tax independently or together with the parents if the income is below 15,000? So that's a very common questions that I get, and it's really hard to just tell you one way or the other. It really depends on the household income and how many kids the family has and all of that, because sometimes the parents might benefit from having a dependent on their tax return, claiming the children, if their income, it's in a sweet spot that it's low enough for maybe educational credit and all of that. So then it makes sense for them to claim the child. But if the child, it's making 15,000 and the family, it's making over 500,000, they're not qualifying for any deduction, then there's no point to really claim the kids. It's not helping you much. You're already cap out of all of the credits. So it makes sense for the child to file their own taxes.
Yeah, a lot of things depends. So that just depends. Okay. So yeah, so we have a few minutes. Yeah. So we do this, everything is no fee, no charge. If called 公益讲座, give us some, good review. So what we would love you is to give us a good review so we can get more. When we show to our speakers, we have a lot of followers. We can invite more specialists, 专家 into our Zoom, and they are doing this for free. Okay. So for the event, yeah. And you can think about a little bit more question. I think we didn't share, so I want to just show very quickly when we didn't share. So this is your Google Haddee Education. Some of you may not know. You will see the company, and I will show you the website. This is our kind of the mobile version, same thing on the WeChat, looking the same. And then we have an AI. It's all integrated. You can ask us questions, but it's all linking to go back to this a PC version. We do provide counseling to provide internship is included. Okay, so this is all kinds of, and then we talk about the services in here. This is Mandarin. This is the Mandarin version of it, and this is more of supporting service, SAT, college professor research, summer program, etc. But this is more on the just counseling services alone. At the end, one-on-one customized, no limit on the college applications. This is you saw it, this is my name, you can LinkedIn. So when I first talk about it, we didn't really, wasn't able to share. So I'm gonna stop here and return back. Let's see, more questions coming in. It's very helpful. Okay, so any questions in person? Any questions? Okay. Anything the parents should know? Yeah.
No,
Um,
Thank you, everyone, for coming today.
Yeah, no problem. I wanted just to end by saying thank you all for joining. Tax and trust planning, we can go drag on. However, I would like all families is the parents, responsible parents, spend a little bit of time, understand it. And proactive planning will do you wonders. Until last minute is very, very hard. And the same for college counseling. Yeah. So anyway,
Great.
thank you, Matt, for coming from Palm Springs. Thank you, Mandy. Yeah. And they all have WeChat. So if you, okay, I'm going to give company information. You can email us. Email sometimes easier because we have different things. But if you want to link in my own WeChat, you can add me. And if you want to say, hey, I want to talk to Mandy, it's easier. I'll just pass. And Matt will now, starting today, activate his own WeChat. So I will just WeChat. You guys can talk. It's all private, okay?
Great.
Anyway, thank you all. And please give us good review. Really appreciate it. And see you next time, okay?
Thank you.
Bye. Yeah, bye. Okay, let's go. Very good.